Southeast Missouri newsroom. This is Josh.
Yes, Josh, I called a few minutes ago and you had me on hold for like 25 minutes.
Oh, okay. I apologize.
Did you forget about me or what? I mean, it seems like a tactic to not get my call through. I wanted to ask him about a article about David Robertson that was falsely imprisoned, maybe because he's the editor, he gets hate calls or something. I just had some questions about an article that I saw, and I had called last week. And I was on there 25 minutes on hold.
Okay, like I said, I apologize because I thought the call had been transferred. You were just wanting to speak with him about the David Robinson story?
Yes, Bob Miller.
Okay, yes. Now, give me just a moment, and I will give me just a second.
This is Bob. Can I help you?
Yes, my name's Daryl McClanahan. I saw an article that you had written or were part of about David Robertson. He was unjustly incarcerated.
Yes.
Are you following the story of the Missouri governor calling for the audit of the Missouri Department of Public Safety?
Yes.
Okay, and Drew Juden was the supervising officer over what happened to Mr. Robertson?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, and that's I help a prison ministry. It's called Lone Star 1776. And I wanted to ask you if you had ever heard of Jeffrey Winehouse. He was shot in Franklin County in 2012.
Jeffrey Winehouse. Boy, it kind of sounds familiar, but it's nothing we would have covered. What did you say that was again?
2012. He was the bulletin man. He ran a paper in Franklin County for 16 years. He was a journalist like yourself.
Okay, and what's the story with? You said what happened to him?
He was shot by the Missouri State Highway Patrol. He was calling for a sit-in at the courthouse and trying to hold government in Franklin County accountable. And a couple officers, Scott Mertens and Henry Folsom of the Missouri State Highway Patrol, they went to his house and asked him some questions because someone said they felt threatened by his YouTube videos, his free speech. And after they came to his house, he answered the door. They said they smelled marijuana. And later in testimony, I can't remember if it was Folsom's or Mertens, one of them didn't smell it. But it took four different they wanted to come into Jeffrey's house. He said, no, you can't come in my house. It took them four different judges to get a warrant to search his house. They kept Jeffrey handcuffed at the police car for like several hours. They had to go to four different judges. The Highway Patrol did not notify the county sheriff as per Missouri law. They're supposed to notify the sheriff. Well, they served this warrant, or they searched his house. They took a little bit of marijuana, a morphine pill. They left a 9mm pistol on his bed, and they took all of his computers. They basically took his printing press. And 2 weeks later, he had did like a motion for summary judgment. He raised a bunch of hell to get his computers back. And they called him up and said, you can come get your computers at this gas station. And so he went down there, and they didn't know he was wearing a spy watch that recorded the whole incident. And when he pulled in, the police officers have perjured themselves and they have lied in testimony, and that's provable. There's lots of evidence out there. They said that Jeffrey pulled into the parking lot at a high speed, got out. They were a little bit threatened, but we talked to him for a little bit. We went to the back of the car and we were having him sign papers. He pulled a gun and we had to shoot him. Okay. Several weeks later, the watch came out. Within just a few seconds of getting out of the car, they just opened up fire on him and shot him. And a lot of people think it was he was calling he was running for coroner, and he was calling to have some cold case murders investigated that may have involved Jay Nixon or police officers in the area. And people believe that's why he was shot. And he had a trial, and at the trial, his attorney, he did survive. After he got out of the hospital, they put him in the hospital. He was shot twice in the chest and twice in the head, and the state would have had to pay the medical bills if they would have got him out of or charged him when he was in the hospital. They waited till like a day out of the hospital. He appeared in court, and they charged him with like armed criminal action. He was wearing a paratroop holster, and there's actually reflection in the video from his watch of and there was witnesses at the gas station that said he never drew a gun, he never did anything. And
has this been written about or in the news anywhere else?
It has been. Cop Block covered it. Lone Star 1776 has a whole playlist of evidence. And I want to tell you, at his trial, they put a shock cuff on him. And nowhere, you see the movies where Hannibal Lecter, they put the mask on him so he can't bite people, And they put a 80,000 shock bolt collar on his ankle, a shock cuff that they bought specifically for him. And Jeffrey's attorney sent a letter to Josh Hawley saying, what's the use of this? And they say, we don't know. And they don't use it on anyone else. He had no criminal history. He wasn't a felon. He had no criminal history. And at his trial, he had a shot. And this is America. They put a shot cuff. And he's been sentenced to 30 years. He's in Bonne Terre. And we're advocating for him. And we've called the governor, Brandon Ellington, representative. I'm hoping he's going to speak out for him. I've been in quite a bit of communication with him, and that he has the bill. We're in the year 2019, and the Missouri State Highway Patrol does not wear body cams. I've called their internal affairs, and they said, we investigated ourselves. We know the young man bounced out of the boat at Lake of the Ozarks. They lost the video camera of the boy being bounced out of the boat. They wanted to cover it up. And on the recording, the troopers say, the father wants us to go out there and get the young man, but he won't be any more dead in the morning. When Jeffrey Winehouse was shot, there are recordings that we have of them saying, there's been a shooting over here, and the supervisor says, that's or whatever troop it is. And who's the guy? Winehouse? Oh, Winehouse, they're messing with him. Maybe he learned his lesson this time. So, he's really been railroaded, and it's similar in ways. It also, I think, it has to do with the good that the audit of the Missouri Department of Safety is happening, because I'm involved, because several years ago, in 2016, I was the chief petitioner to have the city of Lexington, Missouri audited, and I was arrested by the police chief. The mayor quit, the police chief resigned, the city administrator went over to Richmond. The city council all changed over, and when the audit came out, they had misappropriated $500,000. That when I was taking signatures, they followed me around, and I'm very lucky I wasn't shot on my front porch by this maniac sheriff or police chief. And when the police chief quit, he went over and got a job with the Missouri State Highway Patrol, and now he works as a weight station guy, giving hard-working people, truck drivers tickets for bad tires and taillights, because he's not a police chief anymore. And I had found misconduct. This is why Brandon Ellington, he has a bill for a statewide database to hold these law enforcement guys. And I'm not anti-law enforcement, but this police chief of Lexington, he misused law enforcement tools in 2009, and when I began researching him, I found that in the city minutes, and then they removed it from the city minutes. I asked Josh Hawley for it. He refused to give it to me, even though the Missouri Supreme Court has said that police officer misconduct, the ACLU sued for it because of an incident in St. Louis and St. Joe. As you can tell, I'm very versed in what's going on, yeah. I don't mean to barrage you, but I'm a fire hose, and I'm very passionate about Jeffrey's innocence. He's called me many times from prison and we've talked, and he's a Christian guy, and this could be any of us. You could say things as a journalist or me. And I did. I was taking signatures, and the police stopped me, and they said, "Hey, we don't want you taking these signatures. People don't want you doing it." Or I would say, "How come you guys are IDing me again? You know who I am." "Oh, well, we got to call you're a suspicious person." And I'm out trying to regress my grievances as my First Amendment right.
Right.
Is.
Yeah, there's nothing they can do about that.
Well, they did eventually. They arrested me and charged me with theft by deception and resisting arrest, and it was 2 felonies that I had to fight for 2 years, and it's cost my family about $20,000. And there's a federal court case right now for violation of civil rights, and Jeffrey's attorney is also my attorney, Warren Markowitz, and he is advocating for Jeffrey, and he has filed a writ of habeas corpus. If you had an email, I could send it to you, or if you go to Year of Jubilee with 1 E, like the King James Bible, there's a list of American political prisoners. Francis Schaefer Cox or several other prisoners on there that we advocate for. But Jeffrey is on there, and all the playlist of the evidence as well as his legal documents are on there. And we got to get this guy out of jail. The people need to speak up. We need to back Brandon Ellington. He wants all law enforcement to wear body cameras, and he wants all their misconduct to be. And I see nothing wrong with that, because these guys are held to a higher standard. They're watching over our children. They're watching over old folks. You know, they used to, they're you know, just horrible. I have a YouTube subscription.
Right. You're preaching to the choir here.
Yes. Okay.
I've actually covered 2 wrongful convictions from one county. In fact, I'm writing a book about it.
Jeffrey should be in there. I think.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can't include everything, you know.
Sure, sure.
I don't know that I can get to this. It's not in our area or coverage area. I'm not saying that it's not important, but I can only be stretched in so many ways. Mm-hmm. I am interested, though, because there is the local connection here, in your thoughts about Drew Juden. I actually have some sunshine law requests out right now to the AG's office about all communications with anybody who worked at the city of Sykeston during the David Robinson.
I do have I have something important to that, and I believe because Mark Landfair, he was the chief of police of Lexington when I was arrested, and him and his guys were following me around for the mayor saying, "Don't take this petition." Drew Juden had been the president of the Missouri Police Chiefs Association, and I cannot prove this, but I think it might have been like good old boys, elbow. "Hey, this is Mark Landfair over here in Lexington. I got a bunch of heat on me over this audit, and I've been asked to resign, so I'm taking early retirement instead of resigning so I can bow out like I'm a good guy. Can I get a job over at the Missouri Highway Patrol?" Because he was at that time, he was no longer the head of the Chief Missouri Police Chiefs Association. Greitens had named him.
Yeah.
So I think there could be a connection there, and I have a family and a lot of stuff going on, and I would like that sunshine request too. But a lot of advocates for Jeffrey are like, "Oh, rah, we have a new attorney general." I'm like, well, look, Josh Hawley didn't speak up for David Robinson. He couldn't answer the question on why is there a shock cuff put on Jeffrey at trial. He wouldn't answer my sunshine request, and I even appealed it, and he refused to give me and we found out from Facebook that he misused law enforcement tools, he got a woman's address that he was serving in a private capacity, not a official capacity. Mm-hmm. And on his job, of course he gets a $50 fine, or the highway patrol guy bounces the kid out the boat and drowns him. They lose the tape, and the guy gets 8 years in jail. And then of course the whistleblower can't sue. Oh, the whistleblower, I certainly hope he refiles in that case. I've tried to find out information to contact him, but it's a little hard on the internet to get someone's number, I certainly think he should be an advocate against their hiring practices, because it's the, this is the thing with having this database that Brandon Ellington is calling for. These guys have bad conduct. They need to get put on. I don't have a problem with them getting a job somewhere else, but they need to get some supervision of how to treat us. I hate the term citizens, because they always want to say civilians and citizens, and as if they're something. They're equal. They are men just like us, and they've been entrusted with the care of the people.
Yeah, you're right, and they keep a lot of things closed, such as if you call the state and ask for reports on where they've been disciplined or anything like that. Those are closed.
Yes, those are House bills. If you want to check it out, just do Missouri Representative Brandon Ellington. He's from Kansas City, very well-spoken young guy. I tried to get Bruce Franks Jr. when they were having the riots in St. Louis to advocate for Jeffrey, and they don't want to do it. They want to make it a black-white thing. David Robinson was black. Jeffrey Winehouse is a white man. It does not matter to me. All of us need fair justice. We have Francis Schaeffer Cox. You could check out America Has Secret Prisons. I don't agree with the left. I'm more of a conservative, but Will Potter, he's a leaning left person. He did a TED Talk on the secret prisons you don't know about. They've got Muslims in Terre Haute, Indiana, and they're not getting due process. I'm not for the Muslim religion, but I certainly don't want any Muslim held without due process if we're going to live under this Constitution. And the House bills are House Bill 503, 510, and 504.
Okay, I'll take a look at those.
Okay, and go ahead.
Daryl, let me get your. I got you in my notes here. Let me get your. It's this cell phone number I got you at here.
Yes.
417
388-9595, and then if you could write down the YouTube channel, it's Lone Star 1776. And that's Rudy Davis. He's a Christian guy. I don't know if you're a Christian guy, but he's a King James Bible believing guy, and he's speaking up for the voiceless. And we're attacked a lot for that. And then he has a web page called the Year of Jubilee, and all of Jeffrey's legal documents are on there, or I could send them to you, or and actually one of his advocates was arrested at the prison last week or a couple weeks ago, this guy Matt Thompson, because they had put Jeffrey in the hole because somebody sent a crazy letter saying they wanted to break him out of prison. And then there's this kind of famous YouTuber guy, Gavin Stein, that's fled the country to Mexico, and he's calling the prison, calling them cockroaches and Nazis, and that's not no help to anyone. And they thought it was Matt Thompson, and they arrested Matt Thompson. So hopefully Matt, and he's just kind of a meek guy. They held a yellow vest protest with Roger Roots that was involved with the Bundy deal. They had a yellow vest, like 6 people at the Capitol, and I know it was down below the governor's office. And they had a girl in like a wooden cage they made. When she would try to say something, they would shock her with a little, or like, they had a little buzzer thing that made like a shocking sound and said, "You be quiet." And they came out there and told them that they needed a permit, and Roger Roots told them, "No, we don't." And and when they told the Capitol Police that it was a famous attorney there, they said, "Oh, well, you guys could go ahead and finish up since it's just 6 or 7 of you." So Matt's trying to bring attention to Jeffrey, and it's just horrible because he said things people didn't like. He made YouTube videos. He had opinions we don't agree with. Brandon Ellington wants a Malcolm X Day. I don't agree with that, okay? But I certainly, I'm not going to attack him. I'm not going to call for him to be jailed. I'm not going to say that that's the worst thing in the world. I'm going to say that his bills of holding people at government accountable is super important. And I do a lot of these phone calls when I call. I've called the Kansas City Star. I've called many places, and I do post them. And I think it's very positive talking with you because you had questions for me, and I want to get at questions for Jeffrey. And many times I get overwhelmed, and I have all this information, and it just like blurts out, and it doesn't come out the right way. And I would hope you could investigate what happened to Jeffrey and see that it's just not a bunch of misled people. That it's a travesty.
Yeah, I take interest in these types of things. I'll check it out, but I don't want to make any promises or really believe that I'll be doing a story on it. But I think we do have some mutual interests that we could communicate with going forward.
I appreciate your time. You know, my wife's maiden name's Miller. There's a bunch of them in St. Louis. Her dad's from St. Louis. So
yeah, my dad's from Granite City. So
okay.
You said is your first name is it
Darrell? It's Darrell, and McClanahan is McClanahan. Okay.
Well, thanks for calling, and let's stay in touch on.
Call me any time. I will take a call. Most of the time, they were saying we're cyborgs now with these phones. We're so attached to them. But I will take a call. I will take a call any time from you to answer any questions. And this thing, I need to get a sunshine request in for conversations. Did Mark Landfair have conversations to get a job with the Missouri State Highway Patrol? Because he went from how do you go from being police chief to being a wait station cop? Okay, I mean that's a real Barney Five job from being police chief. Okay, so
well, good luck to you. I haven't had much luck so far. I keep fighting them over it, and we'll see if we can get some of those.
You have a large voice and supporters with your paper, and the article on Mr. Robinson was excellent, and I thank you for it. And actually, Erin Davis, Rudy's wife, read that article, or read one of the articles into YouTube.
We did a ton of them. We did a lot of them. So
peace and blessings. Thank you.
If you go to smissourian.com/lifewithout, you can find all the stories we did on him.
Okay. I hope you guys can cover Jeffrey. We'll see. We'll all pray about it. We have a call on Saturdays mornings, and we advocate for Schaefer Cox on Saturday mornings, and it's called Gideon's Army Call, and a bunch of people from around the country call, and they all know Jeffrey, and we want to shine light, make noise like Gideon's Army did. It was only 300 that defeated thousands. So that's all it takes. And often, I'll tell you another thing, is often like men like you, when you speak up and talk, it gives other men courage. It really does when we have people speak up, and nearly enough, you look at all the things that go on, like went on in St. Louis, people start speaking up for what they believe is an injustice. Other people all of a sudden say, hey, I need to stand up too. So thank you again for taking my call. If you have any questions, call me anytime, and if I could be of any help, I certainly would like to be.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.